I do some air sealing too while I'm at it.
Of course you
Mike, spin the wheel. Air sealing. How would you fix this? Air sealing. Just spray foam all around it, right?
Yeah, spray foam can be pretty structurally sound.
Welcome to the Fine Home Building Podcast, our weekly discussion of building, remodeling, and design topics aimed at anybody who cares deeply about the craft and science of working on houses. This is Senior Editor Patrick McComb. I'm joined by Design Editor Kiley Jacques.
Hello.
Deputy Editor Matt Milham.
What's up?
And Producer Jeff Rose.
Hi.
Please email your questions to fhbpodcast@taunton.com. You can find previous podcasts and check out the show notes at finehomebuilding.com/podcast. We got a busy show. I'm going to launch right into it. There's lots of stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we heard from a number of listeners, both related to previous podcast discussions, and Bruce here writes about a very interesting phenomena that can be observed this time of year. Dear FHB crew, attached is a photo of the side of a 4-year-old house in our Lincoln, Rhode Island neighborhood showing an outline of the framing. My wife, a regular FHB podcast listener, spotted this and identified it as thermal bridging. I don't ever remember seeing this phenomenon so clearly illustrated. Keep up the good work, says Bruce. You guys see this? Yeah, I think she's right.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll see it all over the place though this time of year, especially on like older houses or,
Yeah.
See it on roofs a lot.
What I found interesting about this photograph, and I don't know if you two and Jeff noticed, but if you look on what looks like to be the outlet for a combustion appliance there, to the left and right of it, to look to me like stud chases that are either empty or my guess is they probably have ductwork in them. So it's it's an even bigger identifying stripe than the studs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why do people put ductwork on exterior walls? It's just something they used to tell you to do because they wanted it to, like, the warm air to wash over windows and stuff because the window would be cold, right? But I gotta imagine it's lowering the air temperature of the heated air inside.
I would think you would use the same rules you would use for plumbing and not putting that in exterior walls.
Agreed. People do that too, right? Yeah. So I have a photo of our barn that this is one Rob Wadsack sent to us. And what do you think's going on here? This is a Cape-style house, and that's the sloping ceiling on the second floor.
Yeah.
And it's well insulated, but the rafters are showing through the...
Yeah.
Did you say it was a knee wall, probably?
Originally I thought that, but now looking at it, like just from the height of the windows, I would guess that's maybe not what's going on. I really don't know.
I think it's sloping ceiling.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing the frost on the upstairs because it is closer to ambient temperature, which is probably warmer than when the frost formed, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And then my barn this morning, we don't have that one, Jeff?
No.
I meant to put that in there.
Okay.
It looks the same as this. You see the rafters showing through, and that it dramatically illustrates my cut and cobble approach to insulating the second floor of the barn.
Yeah.
And then we heard from Andre in Vancouver, and saying where Andre is from is important because we actually have two Andres in today's podcast who have wrote in. Andre says, I just listened to 208, another good show. I was reminded that I wanted to chime in on a couple of segments from 207.
He goes into a long thing that I'm sorry to say is wrong, but...
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about the Samsung Hub refrigerator, which, as you may recall, was the refrigerator that would turn on your oven 6 feet away.
Okay.
And I mentioned that I liked that it had a monitor in the door because you could put your kids' pictures on it. And he says that I am correct, but you indicated that magnets will stick to stainless steel.
To some.
Okay. So you want to tell us more about that?
Yeah. So there's different kinds of stainless steel. Like, everybody knows that. But they're sort of like two broad categories. There's austenitic, which is not magnetic, and there's ferritic, which is magnetic generally. Both of those things, generally not magnetic, generally magnetic. But it really comes down to sort of like the way the atoms are arranged.
I've heard that.
And it doesn't have anything to do with the content of the iron. You can have like a very high content, iron content, austenitic steel. And you can also have a very high iron content ferritic steel. But, it really has nothing to do with the iron. It's more like what you're adding to the stainless steel and the way the atoms end up arranging themselves decides whether or not it's magnetic or not.
I've heard that like the forming process can also make things magnetic or not.
Yeah, that's true. So you can have an austenitic, non-magnetic stainless steel, and then it will become magnetic if you deform it.
What are most fridges made out of?
Just steel. I don't know. Depends on what the finish is.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them are like he does mention that a lot of them are just sort of like a coating on there, and that is true.
Yes. So what he says, and maybe some metallurgist will confirm or deny this, and Matt's take on it as well. 300 series alloys, usually 302, 304, and 316, do not have enough iron to have a magnet stick to them. There are 400 series stainless steel alloys where a magnet will grip, but if there's enough iron for a magnet to stick, there is enough for it to oxidize.
Right. Well,
you say yes and no.
That I would say no. Like it doesn't have anything to do with the iron content. Again, it's the way different things are used to make these different stainless alloys.
It's nickel, right?
Well, some are nickel, some are chromium, molybdenum. They use all different kinds of things. And depending on which atoms, which elements they're using in the alloy sort of is somewhat determinative of whether or not a magnet will stick to it.
That's fascinating.
I'm sure we're going to
there's a whole lot of
more
other
about
chemistry involved.
I'm sure.
There's
Right. Do you know this from discussions with Heather?
Yeah, a little bit of stuff with Heather, a little bit of going back to my, geology textbooks and stuff like that.
So do you have a stainless steel refrigerator?
I do not.
I don't either. Do you have a stainless steel refrigerator, Jeff?
Yes.
Does a magnet stick to it?
No.
So.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, it's not... It's not going to stick to all stainless steels. It will stick to some.
It's fascinating. I think metallurgy is super cool.
Yeah.
He also writes about dryer ducting. Besides the length of the duct run and the number of elbows, the duct material is important. And I do think we forgot to mention that. Corrugated flex duct has a much dirtier profile and doesn't support as much air movement as smooth metal or plastic ducting. Use flex only where it needs to be flexible. Use smooth duct where you can for better performance and lower energy usage. But you cannot use plastic ducting on your dryer, as I understand it, because it's flammable.
I better check mine because I feel like it's plastic.
Well, for
I could be wrong, though.
everyone put the corrugated vinyl plastic, but you're not supposed to use that. And I've often thought it would be a good idea to use PVC pipe, but you're not supposed to do that either, as I understand it.
Does that apply to all dryers or just like gas-fired or what?
I think it's all dryers. Someone's going to tell
Was
me
he
I'm wrong about
specifically
that.
talking about, dryer. I thought it was just ductwork in general.
He concludes, but if you get your tour bus rolling, I have a great Keep Craft Alive location to visit in Vancouver, Canada.
I would love to go.
So let's go.
Vancouver's great.
You've been?
Yeah.
It looks like an amazing city.
3 summers ago, I think. Yeah. It was fantastic.
Have you been, Kylie?
I haven't, no.
How about you, Jeff?
Long, long time ago.
Do we have to go on a tour bus?
Yes. That's going to be fun. Okay. Finally, we heard from Jonathan, who we've heard from before. A while back, Kylie mentioned she was taking a course in estimating when renovations occurred on historic homes. I'm an expert on this topic, he says. My wife will attest to that. I love to tell her the estimated age of homes. I'm sure he's a lot of fun to be with on a Sunday morning road trip. Right. Zilla was always there to show me how much more I need to know to learn about aging houses. For years, I wondered about the age of a basement renovation in our house. I recently noticed the backside of the drywall has a date of manufacture on it, September 2002. This is a rock-solid technique for aging modern renovations. Drywall, electrical conduit, and other building materials often have dates listed on them. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
He might be interested in the report that the architect that I am working with submitted about this Sellers Hall, which is a historic estate. And it's all about archival research and architectural investigations, and it's available to read. And since this is an interest of his, he might appreciate that.
What's the gist of it?
It's that the 1600s house that I was going to visit, and then the additions that were put on through the 19th century.
And what are some of the ways that,
kind of what he's talking about,
dating the materials.
Dating the materials, exactly. And the methods.
Or the construction methods.
Right.
Sure.
One thing we used to use a lot when I worked in environmental consulting in a previous career
Yes.
is fire maps, because a lot of stuff gets put on those. I don't know if it's for the
What's a
firemen.
fire map?
Yeah,
I don't
what
know.
gets
I don't
put
know
on
exactly
them.
what the use is beyond what I use them for, which is to figure out where like fuel tanks and stuff were in the ground.
Okay, so presumably this would be something the fire department would reference when they show up in a call to know that
Right.
don't go in this room where
Right.
the explosive cylinders are, for example.
So how does
Right.
that indicate the age of the house?
Well, because it will tell you, you get maps going back to the 1800s, and it shows you basically where everything was put in the ground and when.
Okay.
Because you're looking at these maps from like over an extended period, so you can figure out exactly when the thing was in the ground, and you can determine whether or not you expect to find a leak. And,
I see. Okay.
Also the location. And,
Right.
I mean, you can see from these maps, because they have to get updated every time they do a significant change, like add a tank or whatever.
Are they pretty accurate, would you just say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good
I mean,
to
you'll
know.
find stuff that like you can't tell, looking at it today that there's anything there, and then you poke a hole in the ground, and there it is. The tank is still there.
Is every
I
house
bet everyone's
required?
really happy
Yep.
about that, right?
Is every house required to have one?
Oh no, this is mostly in like bigger buildings.
Okay.
And
I-
infrastructure, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I have no idea about like whether residential fire maps exist
That
or
would
not,
be-
but
yeah.
this is all commercial buildings.
Okay.
So a couple weekends ago, has it been that long, Kylie? You sent me a photograph of your water tank, and you said something to the effect of,
Is it a problem that it's leaking? That's how much I know about
and then
water tanks.
I didn't hear any. I said yes, and then I didn't hear anything for days. So I was just like, well, I'm sure she got a new water tank.
Yeah, no,
and
I just put it out of my mind.
You just said it's going to be fine.
That's my nature.
And so what ended up happening?
Well, once you explained to me that really was something I needed to take care of, I had a plumber come over and he replaced it. It certainly was. It was leaking from all the way nearly to the top. It was coming down.
So what often happens with tank-style water heaters is they start leaking and it doesn't show up right away, and the water actually rises up in the jacket, and they'll often just turn off the breaker if it's electric. I don't know what happens to a gas heater. I just presume it just keeps getting wet, and that's a telltale sign that something is a problem. And my concern was that if you let this go, then it can start leaking a lot more,
Yeah, right.
and fill your basement with 60 gallons of water.
You know what's interesting? He didn't tell me what he was going to put in for what manufacturer he was going to use, and so apparently he chose something highly efficient. And I was happy to read that the Bradford White is the brand or manufacturer, and their training facility is LEED certified.
Sweet.
Which, you know how I feel about that.
Tell us about how you found your plumber, because service plumbers are often hard to find nowadays.
Yeah, and he was excellent. He is now officially my plumber.
Cool.
Yeah, recommendation from friends that's been living in my town for years.
I was delighted to see that he put ball valves on the top of your tank, and that shows me he cares what he's doing.
Yeah, he was very professional. So I'm all set, and I've got much hotter water now.
I bet.
Yeah, it was lukewarm, and now I know why.
So my guess is when the thing started leaking, it shorted out the lower element, or maybe that happened first. I don't know, but so when my tank style heater started going bad, I would have insanely hot water, which completely defies what you expect to happen. But what had happened is the lower element had failed, and the upper element was trying to keep up.
Kicking.
And so at the top of the tank was this like really hot water, but then halfway down it was much cooler.
Yeah.
And so I fixed it. I put a new element in it, and like weeks later, it started leaking. So
Fantastic.
I would say if you have a problem with your tank style electric water heater, just replace it. Save doing it twice.
Didn't you tell me that you can really only expect 7 years out of these things?
Commonly,
This
7
one's
to 10.
covered for 6. I was happy to see.
Yeah, and
It'll last 6 years
It's
in
going to
one
last
day.
six and a half years.
Yeah.
And I put a photo of your scaffolding for your gazebo.
Oh my.
Because I think it's very cool. It looks like a modern sculpture, somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's basically just reproducing pipe staging
out of
Out of
2x4s.
2x4 12-footers.
And it's what? Your eave height is like 12 foot up?
Yeah, it's about 12 feet.
So you need scaffolding for any
on that
efficiency.
backside. Yeah, I was trying to work off of a ladder at first, and
no
there's
way.
just no way to get I'm not moving the ladder
You
around
just
that many
need
times.
more room to hold stuff. You know, like you need a bundle of shingles at least, right?
Yeah, I built one wide enough so I could put the little like battery op table saw and stuff up there, so I could cut everything for the for all the corners and everything.
So one thing those of you listening who are tempted to do this for your employees, you are not allowed to make wood scaffolding. But if you're working on your own project, why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I really want to talk about air leaks in your attic.
Yeah.
Because I want to live vicariously through your air sealing that I haven't done. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know that this is like stellar air sealing, but I did find a gigantic sort of bypass, I guess, if you want to call it that.
We should tell folks what the difference is between an air leak and a bypass.
Yeah, well...
A bypass is big.
Yeah. This
is that the difference?
Yes.
Yeah, this is probably, the 6 inches wide by 8 feet.
So 4 square
long.
feet of hole.
Yeah.
Is this a new discovery?
Yeah. So I put in a new bath fan in the bathroom that didn't have one. And while I was up there, I'm like, well, I'm going to try to seal around the waste
Top plates
vent and everything. And,
yep.
So I pulled the insulation away from that. It's not just that the vent is coming. At first I thought maybe, it was like a 2x6 wall or something like that between these bathrooms. It's not. It's 2 2x4 walls with the studs on the flat. And then the pipe, they basically are just like up against the pipe. And they didn't close off the top of that wall at all.
Nobody did that.
Except with like 2x4s about every, 2 to 4 feet.
You're supposed to seal those for fire suppression, right? Like, you're not supposed to have cavities that connect levels. That's a definite no-no.
Right. And then when I peeled that insulation back and saw that, I could also see right down to the basement because someone had cut a hole
my God.
in the first floor sheathing for something. I don't know what, but it was about a 4-inch by 6-inch hole. So there was warm air just like
pouring out of
there.
So I found something very similar when I put a new bath fan in our house too, and inevitably near the waste stack, there's always like big holes, and I found the same thing. And like you, I could see all the way into the basement. But what it had done in my house and not in yours was make all the roof sheathing soaking wet enough that it was moldy and just dripping wet in the wintertime when I went up there. So
Yeah, and
you can't have that.
Yeah, I had foil-faced bats over that, and they seem to have done a reasonably good job of
Stopping the airflow.
Yeah, keeping that from happening. But the one thing I did find while I was doing that, so I go down to the basement to plug up that hole, and I found one of my cat's collars, old collars, like because she likes to climb up in the drop ceiling.
She's going to be really disappointed there's not like an elevator to the attic anymore.
That's the thing. I think I found the route that the mice were taking to get up into the attic. So that's
Man,
probably
that was a day of discovery.
That's the best part about it.
It's this time of year that gets people, I guess, concerned about this kind of stuff, right? Because you start to get condensation on your windows. And Rob Watsack came to me the other day, and he's like, "Can we use the blower door at my house because I want to do some air sealing?" And he found some pretty egregious problems. One was a supply water line that was in a cavity that was connected to the outside, and for whatever reason, people don't tape drywall like when they're part of a chase and you can't see it. It's just like but it matters.
Yeah.
Especially if you have pipes in there.
I had some trim replaced, exterior, like sill. Well, it was all trim, but anyway, the sill. He changed the slope of it and did a few other things that has resulted in the situation where I can't. It's a double hung window, and I can't get the top portion of it to close all the way.
That is a huge problem.
It is a huge problem. My windows are very wet.
Yeah. So you're asking
I don't know
how
what
to
to
fix
do.
that?
No, there's a piece of wood in the way. Like, I'm not sure exactly why he put that there and why he didn't put it on the other one. It's windows side by side.
We need a photograph.
Okay.
We'll revisit this. You got to get that fixed just for your own comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have little to talk about, but the cold weather has got me thinking about gloves. I've been moving firewood into the barn. We have like acres of cordwood stacked on the lawn, and I'm
where
trying
it dries best.
I'm trying to burn it up, and it burns fantastic. It burns like
even though it's been on the grass.
Well, so they're up on pallets.
Okay.
And you can tell it's dry because it doesn't weigh what it did when I put it there. Like you could barely pick up the pieces when I stacked it.
Maybe you're just stronger from stacking all that wood.
But it works fantastic. But it's exactly the right time. My friend and our regular contributor, Andy Grace, sent me this little write-up of gloves he uses. And I brought them with them to me to the show. And the first one that he said, like for normal work, both in cold weather and in warmer weather, are these ironclad framing gloves. And they keep your hands warm, but they have the primary fingers used for picking up screws and nails are cut off so you can actually grab stuff. So that seems like a smart idea. Yeah. And they have great design, right?
They look like biking gloves to me.
These are not cheap. I think these were $20 a piece, a pair rather. Yeah, $20 a pair. So don't lend them to your flunky helper. I could say that. And the other was, he said that his like go-to winter glove are these Showa Atlas, and there'll be photographs and links to these on the podcast page if y'all are interested. But these come in a 12-pack. I bought them on Amazon, and it was $36 for a dozen pairs. So
I can attest to those. I wore them for 22 years as a gardener, and even when they get wet, your hands they're insulated.
Yeah.
So even because they make a non-insulated glove as well, and this is far superior.
Yeah,
unless it's summertime.
Right. The ones that aren't insulated are very cold in the winter. You think they would be helpful, but the rubber is like sucking all the heat out of you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So these are dipped gloves, but they have a much thicker fabric part. So
and you can wash them for years, and they're still maintained.
They seem really tough.
They are. They're good.
Yeah, I've used Kenco gloves that are very similar to that, and I like them.
I was very happy to have to buy a dozen of these to get a photograph of one pair, I gotta say.
I still got some Kenco gloves that I got in high school. They were mountain bike gloves, though, so they're not like
I bet
work
they're
gloves.
tough.
They are. I don't. They just have lasted all this. They smell real bad. I've washed them a lot. I cannot get the stink out now. But
right up there with your hats.
I can't throw them out because they're in such good shape.
Is it like the stink of polypropylene underwear, kind of?
Yeah. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, it's like the sweat of all that. And it just does not come out.
That is the worst.
Yep.
Ugh.
And finally, he suggests the DeWalt thermal insulated 2-in-1 grip gloves. The 2-in-1 refers to the fact that they're basically two gloves sewn together. The inner liner is a brushed acrylic thermal layer that is dreamy soft, Andy writes.
They look like they're made for a giant.
So you may have noticed I got gloves that could fit my hand. But these I couldn't get in a smaller size. So
Rob Watzak can't. He's got the right hands.
These are extra
for those.
large.
Mm-hmm.
They look very much like Smurf hands, don't they? Except black.
Probably too many fingers for a Smurf.
So thank you, Andy. Your check's in the mail. All right, should we take a question?
Yeah.
All right, here's our second, Andre from Staten Island. Dear Fine Home Ceiling Podcast, I know we all have loved hearing about your suggestions about what to do with solid masonry homes with joists pocketed into the walls. My question is not about the joists or the pockets, it's about the attic. The previous homeowner put can lights in the ceiling of all my rooms. The ones in the attic floor concern me most. They moved the insulation away from where the fixture is and didn't move it back neatly when they were done. All the fixtures are IC rated. I saw the stamps when I was making the switch to LEDs. So, I've taken to putting back the insulation and returned it neatly. While starting to do the work, I started to question my plan and am seeking your advice. Firstly, my 9-point plan.
Sounds like Baldric from Blackadder. I have a cunning plan.
I love anyone with a 9-point
I know,
plan.
right?
It's like, all right.
It's pretty solid.
1, remove all insulation. 2, vacuum out the dirt and crap from under the insulation. I found small pieces of sheetrock, random lengths of board, several feet of unused BX cable, general dust, and debris. I'm surprised he hasn't found like piles of mouse poop. That's what I always find under the insulation.
That could fall under general debris.
Put all the clean insulation back in. Add new insulation where pieces were missing. While I'm at it, run Cat 5 cables and coax to the bedrooms. Add a sheet of plastic over the joints. Add a layer of 1-inch EPS foam. Reuse any bits of 3/4-inch plywood to make up the attic floor. Add new 3/4 plywood to make a nice flat area to store my Christmas lights. Okay, so I was with him until we got to the EPS foam and the plastic sheet, right?
Yeah.
It's such an easier and cheaper way is to just add more insulation. And so I talked to, who is this again? Andre. So he has 2x6 ceiling joists, and the bats are put in there, which would be R19. That's not nearly enough insulation for he's on Staten Island. So I would be tempted to buy rolls of insulation and run it perpendicular to the existing bats and go over top of the joist. Even better would be to blow in a foot or more of cellulose on top of the existing insulation. But what's the key to all this? You got to seal the holes, right?
Yeah. You
So
gotta
that's the
air seal
first.
everything.
The first thing is like while you're moving this insulation around, seal all the penetrations and cracks and gaps, just
So
like
you
Matt.
So, I mean, I haven't gone through and done this in my entire attic because it's a pain in the butt to move all that insulation and getting it back out. Like my roof is not that high of a slope, so getting it back out
To the eaves is
to
really
the eaves is nearly impossible. I've hit my head on I don't know how many nails trying to like crawl out there on my stomach and not fall through the drywall.
Yeah, that's the best part is the roofing nails poking down through the sheathing.
Yep.
Have you done this, Kylie?
Oh, of course, many times. But Martin Hollidays has a piece on recessed can lights, and he's saying that fiberglass bats are not the solution.
So you're
He
right.
recommended installing an airtight cap made of mineral wool.
And so in last week's podcast, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Larry Armanda's recipe for sealing your can lights.
Yep.
If you have good airtight cans and you actually put the LED inserts and use the gaskets and stuff that are sealing with them, they might perform okay. But I would want to do a blower door test with a smoke pencil to see if indeed they are airtight as professed. Most are not.
Have you ever done the LED conversion on one?
I have a couple times.
Does that just mean using an LED bulb?
So it's a little more than that. The LED bulb has a pigtail that screws into the existing Edison bulb socket in the can light, and then it's got the lens is also the LED element, and it usually has springs similar to the reflectors that are in a can light with an incandescent bulb.
Is that
Does
a
that
real
make
money
sense?
saver to do it that way versus just get new can lights?
Well, at least
Or
in
get rid of 'em.
Connecticut, and I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but the LED bulbs are subsidized, so they want people to switch to them, and they're very affordable. So I think it's a pretty good bang for the buck.
Yeah.
This is from someone who's cheaper than all you put together. So, what do you think about this, guys?
I don't know. The plastic was what really
He
kind
said
of
it's
like
been
caught
there
me
for
up.
a year. And
I hate
that's
the plastic.
That's the thing. Like, so he's got a decent amount of sort of like experiment time to know whether or not
Yeah.
those lights are really leaking. Because I would think if they were, if you went up this time of year when it's kind of cold, you would see condensation on on that plastic.
It's also like how much moisture is in your house, right? I mean, it has to be coming from somewhere. So if your house is really dry, and many homes are, especially in the wintertime,
Yeah.
it's like, it's probably fine. He doesn't want to take it out because he feels like that's a good air barrier. But I would say you really want the air barrier at the drywall layer, not up above the insulation.
Right, but he recognizes the risk there because
Yes.
he mentions that he hasn't seen any water on. He hasn't seen that his drywall's like crumbling or whatever from getting soaked with condensate.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I put a couple articles on the podcast page for those of you listening. The one is making fiberglass work, and it describes how to install fiberglass so it works like it's supposed to. And another one on how to make an insulation ramp. This is a little piece that Mike Gerton did on like when you have a bunch of fluffy insulation, but you want to store stuff up in your attic, you have to build a platform to put it on and to walk around on. So it describes how we used a bunch of junk to do that, which I thought was kind of cool. But he asked that later on, and I'm not going to read his whole question, but he noticed that some of the bats were more dense or more fluffy, and it depends on the manufacturer. They do it differently. And the article I linked on how to install fiberglass correctly, which is called "Making Fiberglass Work," talks about the insulation that the contractor in this feature article prefers, which is Knauf, because it's much more resistant to compressing, and I found that to be true when I saw the material. It's like way different than the pink stuff.
yeah. But he talks about like should he pull it out and replace it or
I don't think so.
no, just add more.
Yeah, but first do the air sealing. God, for any of this to work, that's the secret.
Yeah,
We are the
Seems
fine.
like the secret to everything.
We are the home sealing podcast, as someone just said. I think that was Andre.
Yeah.
So, go figure. The answer is air sealing. So Click and Clack, the Car Talk guys, used to have this spinning wheel. When they didn't know the answer to something, they would spin the wheel and it would give you some like diagnostic suggestion. I think we need a wheel with air sealing on every one of the possible sections. Will writes, "Hi, gang. In my recent journey to find a replacement for my aging work van, I stumbled across this company, xlfleet.com. I'm wondering if your listeners have any experience with this outfit. It appears that the cost is fairly substantial for an individual, but for a larger company or municipality, it could make sense." So what this company does is take your standard work truck, and they have a couple dozen listed that they make kits for, and they turn it into either a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid. And prices start at $10,000. I'm wondering if the $10,000 upfront conversion cost for a sizable increase in fuel economy is a ratio I'm sure will decrease with time. So I hope it becomes an option for my next van. The gas mileage on a fully loaded ProMaster 2500 leaves something to be desired. So would you guys like to guess what the typical fuel economy is for a ProMaster van?
Not I.
I would guess under 15 miles a gallon.
So it varies, but with model year. But it seems like 16 is the what you can expect to get. So
Loaded or unloaded?
oh, so that's just the question, right?
Yeah.
But I would say most people don't buy a truck this size if they plan to have it empty, right? You buy a truck because you want to carry stuff in it.
Well, I mean, I don't know why I went down this rabbit hole. This was a little while ago. It's like, how many people who buy trucks actually use them for what they're intended for? And in America, it's something like less than 15% of people who buy pickup trucks are buying them for work. They're just, it's a status symbol.
So I don't think that's. I mean, we're not talking. So he specifically said work truck,
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yes, most are suburbanites with 2-3 kids, right? And you need a 4-door pickup truck if you want a pickup truck.
He asked if there were other companies doing conversions like that, and I did find one in the Bay Area called Motive, and they do just about the same thing, and to Fords specifically.
That's interesting because that's one. So I tracked down this. I think it's an EPA.
Yeah, it was a DOE or EPA.
EPA
had
website.
a couple different options.
And Odyne Systems, Engineer, and XL Hybrids are 3 companies that are also doing something similar. And I think, as he points out, this makes a lot of sense for a fleet company who's got tons of money in fuel costs and largely knows, because they're tracking it, how many miles they need to drive in a day. And if you could make it run on mostly electric, I think it would save you a lot of money.
Yeah. The XL for the F-150, I think it said it saves like 50% of
The plug-in hybrid version, the regular hybrid version is 25%.
It's 25%. Yeah, those were all 25%. Which I thought was a little odd because it was for literally every vehicle that they had on there. It said it's 25% improvement in fuel economy.
Right, and it doesn't like there's no parameters for what you have in it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I move safes for a living. I need better mileage.
I like seeing cities converting their buses to electric.
So my son's school bus fleet are all propane powered, and there's pluses and minuses to that. They have lesser tailpipe emissions, but extraction of propane is not as good as some things. So I looked it up, and gas in Connecticut is currently $2.67 per gallon on average.
Where do you buy your gas?
So this is not what I paid yesterday. I can tell you it was like $2.80.
Go to the Global.
What's that?
Global.
Is that at Fuel Company?
I don't know. It's right next to the Mobile. if you're on 84, it's a lot cheaper.
Is it?
I paid $2.53, I think, yesterday. Wow. Yep.
It seems like it's cost the same as when I was in high school, which I find to be rather odd.
Yeah.
So at current prices, you'd have to use at this gas per gallon cost 3,745 gallons before you've paid off the $10,000. So, I mean, that buys a lot of fuel, almost 60,000 miles. But I don't know. There are other things at work there. What do you think, Kiley?
I mean, if he can figure out a way to make it work, I support him. But it sounds like he understands that
It's expensive.
it's very expensive.
If you drive a lot, 60,000 miles is not that much. I mean, I put that on my car in less than 2 years driving here for work.
Yes. So do you think tradespeople generally drive more or less than you?
It really depends. I mean, my last job before I came here, we were driving at least an hour to jobs every day because
I hear that's pretty typical.
Yeah.
I mean, the folks in New York and Washington, D.C. that I've talked to recently drive 2 plus hours every day.
Yeah.
But I mean, it might not be that many miles, but of course they're
of it's
burning
traffic.
gas.
Yeah.
And I think a hybrid helps a lot when you're creeping along in traffic, right? Because
Absolutely.
theoretically the engine shuts off and then it's all electric.
Yeah.
I hope they become more affordable. I'd love to have one.
Well, I can tell you there's a huge motivation for the automakers, the truck makers, to be doing this because consumers want it.
Yeah.
So here's Keith from Minneapolis. Hi, FHB team. I listen to the podcast every week. Keep up the good work. I'm planning to build a workshop and would like your recommendation on the wall assembly. I'll be using drywall on the inside and LP Smart Side lap siding on the outside. What would you recommend for the stuff in between? Some details. I am located in Minneapolis, which is climate zone 6. So it can get chilly here. I love how folks from the upper Midwest say chilly or cool when what they really mean is frigid and dangerous.
Freezing.
The space will be heated, though likely not full time. I do not plan on air conditioning. I'm planning on wood construction with about 11-foot sidewalls. The workshop will have a hip roof with 3-foot eaves to match the house. I'm going to let you tear into this first.
All right. Well, when I saw the 3-foot eaves, I was like, you're going to need an engineer or an architect, first of all.
For that much overhang?
Yeah.
You think so?
Well, code only goes up to 2 feet.
Okay.
And that's
But
largely
you could
because
have a
of
truss
wind
made
resistance.
with an overhang that would be engineered.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can have it engineered.
Okay.
But you're not going to be building that by using what's
Normal
in the
methods.
prescriptive code. Yeah. So that
That kind of makes me sad because I love wide overhangs.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do too.
And it's also good for the building. And we'll get to that in a little bit.
It may look a little silly on a building that only has 11-foot walls.
It does seem like overkill.
Yeah.
Oh, but he's going to be able to store cordwood and stuff
That's
like
true.
under
Oh, yeah.
the eaves, you know?
Right.
No. And
Or
it-
have a railroad platform
yeah,
outside.
And it totally obviates the need for the air gap
Jeff
that he
got
talks
that.
about.
What's that?
He talks about whether he needs an air gap behind
Yeah.
the LP smart side. And
So do
if
you want to touch on that? I was going to... Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the product is a consistent thickness across its width. So when you install it, it sort of has an air gap behind it. And that's not really the kind of air gap I think he's talking about. But if he's got 3-foot overhangs,
Because the
this
wall's never
stuff's
going to get wet.
going to get wet.
Yeah.
So you don't need an air gap. I
You
don't
can
think.
build a way less forgiving wall assembly if you have 3-foot overhangs.
Yeah.
Or even 2 feet.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Right? Because it's not getting wet.
Right.
And researchers have found out, and I've said this in past podcasts, forgive me for those of you who pay attention, that stucco researchers have found you can do everything wrong, but if the house has wide overhangs, that they perform pretty well.
Yeah.
So there you go.
But I mean, as far as the wall assembly, I don't know, 2x4, 2x6. I don't know that it really matters if it's not going to be heated full time. But I would build it basically as a 5-sided box with probably zip or zip R around the entire thing, and that's your sheathing, your water barrier, and your air barrier. Tape everything, and then put your truss package on top of that.
Yeah. I tend to agree. I'm a big fan of recycled or reclaimed roof insulation as exterior insulation, so I might do it a little different. I might do a 2x6 wall with OSB or plywood sheathing and then foam on top of that, reclaimed foam.
That comes up a lot, reclaimed rigid foam. Where do you go for that?
Craigslist is what most people say. So I bought mine from a company that was headquartered in New Jersey, and it came from a warehouse there on a common carrier truck, and it was a super deal. I'll put
Is
a
it in-
podcast link up there to the blog post I did about building my barn and the delivery of the stacks of polyiso insulation I got.
Was it in great shape?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
And I mean, the company that I got it from, they sent me way more than they said they were going to, I'm sure, with the expectation that some of the pieces are going to be damaged. And rather than have people complain about it and have to make good, they just send you a third more than they say they're going to. And that's boy, it's cheap too. It's like the third of the cost of new stock, which is, if you've never bought foam recently, you'd be surprised at how expensive it is. But all that said, for a workshop that's going to be heated intermittently, why worry about it? Just build an airtight 2x6 building with wood sheathing, tape the seams or do whatever you want to on the outside to make it so it's a good air barrier, and it's going to be fine.
Get on with your life.
The garage door is going to be the bigger problem anyway. Like, no matter what you do to the envelope, that's still going to be the weak link.
Yeah. If he
What do you
puts
have for
one of those doors
recommendations
on it.
there?
I don't know. That's another question for another day. It's actually in the podcast inbox right now, but I need to do some more research. Like, typical overhead doors, unlike a window or an entry door, like, are inside the opening.
Yeah, it's
It
not
doesn't
captured
fit
really
in
by
the
anything.
in
It's
the
captured by
opening,
the track.
and you try and put weather stripping on the outside of the opening that laps onto the, and it's terrible. It just does not work. So
Yeah, the door tends to rattle in there. That gap opens up, air blows right through.
I wish there was, and if any of you out there know it, I wish there was a company that made a good overhead door. But what we always tell people is to have carriage doors which swing, which close into an opening, and you can weather strip, and they seal a lot better.
Yeah.
I would also say pay attention if you're going to put foam on the outside of this building that it's at least the minimum thickness called for in the IRC. Otherwise, you can get condensation on the backside of the sheathing. But if you put on mineral wool, rigid mineral wool on the exterior, you don't need a minimum thickness, I've learned recently, which was mind-blowing.
Or if you use Zip Bar, doesn't matter because the foam's on the inside.
Yeah, I like that product too. I don't know about like 11-foot walls. I mean, like they might have a spec for that. You need to follow their nailing schedule because it does have reduced shear strength compared to regular panel sheathing.
Yeah.
I was going to make a distinction between. So he asked about does he need an airspace behind his siding, and I would at minimum use a WRB that's drainable, just that water that gets in there can get out. But that's different than a space that can have airflow, which will dry if it gets wet. So these will drain, but they're going to have less drying.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry
Isn't that
about
a
it too much.
Isn't that a rain screen?
Yeah.
Like a gap?
So if you're using just the sheathing or just the WRB for drainage, it wouldn't be a rain screen. It has to be over a space. Did we beat that to death?
I think hopefully we got it for him.
I like the hip roof. Once again, the hip roof like protects the wall, right? Because you have overhang on all sides.
Yeah.
Oh boy, this is my favorite question. I saved the best one for last. Greetings, Fine Home Building. I'm a homeowner who knows just enough about remodeling to be dangerous. I discovered your podcast about a year ago and I never miss an episode. About 9 years ago, our electrician, he puts electrician in quotes, installed recessed can lights in our kitchen. Our kitchen is in the single-story part of the house. Recently, we noticed one of the can's lights looked wonky, so I climbed up in the attic, dug out the insulation, and found the wonky can light. A 10-inch section of the ceiling joist was cut to accommodate the recessed light. Please see the pictures attached. The ceiling is now sagging where the portion of the joist was removed. Wondering if you could give me some ideas on how to fix it.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
Yeah. He's
What
not,
the
he's not
heck?
an
Cut through
electrician.
the
He's a
joist to
butcher.
put the.
That was some serious wood butchery. This is my favorite part. So he sent us a picture of the scrap he certainly found up there that was still in the attic, right? That he cut out of the ceiling. He didn't even cut it straight. He just like hacked it the heck off.
Yikes. Yeah.
Does he need to fix this for real?
For real? For real? I mean,
How for real does he have to fix this?
I don't know. I mean, I would take the can light out and replace that joist, and then just
Move the can light?
Yeah, move
You
the
got to
can
patch
light.
the ceiling.
You got to patch the ceiling. Probably you're going to have to rip all that drywall out too, because when you rip unless you leave that existing joist there
And
'cause
sister it.
and sister it, because otherwise all those fasteners are going to pop, and you're going to end up tearing that drywall up anyway. Or I mean, you could
Go
just
ahead. Or
put some 2x across, sort of like
to
perpendicular
scab it, like to kind of patch it.
yeah, sort of like to the joists on either side of it, and sort of like, use those as the structure and sort of pull that joist back up with some screws. It'll hold it. But I mean, that's not ideal. That's not what I would do. I'm
What
just
do you
saying
think,
that's a
Kylie?
possibility.
It sounds like sistering it would be the best thing, and just taking out that can and do without altogether. Don't relocate it.
I kind of feel like we've had this question before,
Can lights seem to
right?
You mean with the joist?
yeah.
This very question.
I think this guy sent this in like years ago
Oh,
that we
really?
answered.
And he's just
It hasn't fixed it.
I want a second opinion from the same people.
Maybe he didn't like Rob and Brian's and
maybe
Justin's
that's what
answer.
it was. Yeah.
What would you do, Patrick?
Oh my God. So the irony to me is that it looks like the guy didn't even need to cut the joist. It's not even in the path of it, right?
Barely.
Barely.
Yeah.
And I mean, so can lights for aesthetic reasons have to be lined up sometimes. You can have them like different distances from a wall or a soffit or something. So, I mean, if I were the electrician, I would have made sure that I could put it where I intended before I started cutting the hole for the light, which is obviously what happened. And then he realized, oh, it doesn't fit.
I already got all these other holes cut.
Yeah.
Now this one is going through a joist. Guess that's what's going to happen.
So I would try and sister it as you suggest by leaving it there. And you're going to have to temporarily support the joists that were cut so you can get them back in plane to sister it and then fasten them to the new.
How do you do that?
I would, like I said, like the possible fix, just run 2x, across to the neighboring joists.
Yeah.
And then just drive a long screw down and pull that back up into position.
That's a really good idea. A structural screw would suck that sucker right back up there. I was thinking you'd have to go on the underside and use a little bottle jack and a post. Like, you don't need that weight, but it's very precise.
Yeah.
You could also cut a slightly longer 2x and tap it in until you got the thing back up in plane.
Yeah.
What if the rest of the ceiling is not level and you're trying to, you know what I mean?
And it's not.
problem.
If it's going to have been there for a year, like the drywall will start to permanently take a set with the sag shape in it. It's going to take that. So I would fix it sooner. And you might, if you have trouble getting the drywall to flatten out, you might mist it from the top side with a spray bottle. I would call your electrician and tell him to fix it.
Hopefully he's not still his electrician.
God. So, like, I generally say that electricians don't do hacky stuff like this, like some other tradespeople, but this person was...
Proves you wrong.
Yeah, it was wrong.
Who's worse, plumbers or electricians?
As far as cutting holes?
Yeah.
I would say plumbers are way worse because they have bigger holes. Like, the biggest wire in a single-family home is going to be, 2 inches in diameter?
Right.
Versus the biggest pipe is 4 inches inside diameter, so... That's a much bigger hole.
Yeah.
The HVAC guys are seemingly the biggest gorillas. Like they
make the biggest holes.
They have the biggest pipes, so they make the biggest holes. They must buy the 16-inch Sawzall blades for extra reach.
Jaws of life.
So seriously, what do you think we should tell this person to do?
I think he did.
Put another joist to the side of it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best. I was thinking you could head this off, but I don't think that's the right answer.
No.
And you're supposed to double up. So when I say head it off, you have to do this for stair openings when you cut a joist to make a hole in the floor. And
Right.
The header that supports the shorter joist, the one that has the shortest span, is attached to the joist neighboring, right? Mm-hmm. But you have to double those up.
Right. So he'd be using even more.
There'd be so much wood in this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be hanging around up there, right?
No. You definitely don't want to
Stand
on that
one.
while you're doing
Avoid that
anything.
one.
Yep.
You'll have a much bigger problem.
That's probably why it got all wonky to begin with.
He
Somebody's
just stepped
probably
on
walking
it.
around up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do some air sailing too while I'm at it.
Of course you would.
Mike, we spin the wheel. Air sealing. How would you fix this? Air sealing. Just spray foam all around it, right?
Yeah. Spray foam can be pretty structurally sound.
Boy, it was a short show today.
You have
What
a
did we
good
forget? No. What do you got?
I don't have an EndNote. You're the EndNote master.
Burn through all
I'm
my
going to start
EndNotes.
looking for some, though.
Yeah,
maybe,
please.
Maybe that'll be my gig.
Good.
EndNotes.
Do you like that part?
I do.
I think that's probably one of my favorites. Were you here for the last week's discussion of the ideal deck?
No.
It's important because you and Matt have had conversations about this prior, and you're generally a fan of patios, correct?
Opposite.
No, she
I'm
hates
sorry.
patios.
So
Yeah,
you like
I like
decks.
decks.
So the beef you have with decks is that they rot and fall down.
Yeah, when they're attached to the house.
Yes.
And I don't want anything that is going to fail 100% to.
It's inevitable.
It's
just,
inevitable.
yeah.
It's
Not if
going
you
to
take
happen.
precautions to avoid that.
I
If
would
you
agree.
replace it
Yeah.
from time to time.
So this was a deck made from an old pontoon boat.
Oh, I saw that.
And it was
yeah.
like stuck on the
Yeah,
ground,
I
which
did see
solves
that.
all the problems. And I pointed out that if the high water comes, you just hop aboard and
You're all set.
all
Yep.
set.
That was funny. How did you think that looked, though? That was kind of
I loved
on
it.
the
Just-
ridiculous
so
side.
I have a great fondness for anything that is like stupidly practical.
Functional, right.
Yeah, it's like if it's practical, I will overlook any aesthetic anomalies.
I believe that about you.
Yeah,
That looked great.
it matched the house.
It did match the
Oh boy. Well, if any of you think of some end notes out there that we should be covering and we haven't gotten to, I would be happy to have those. So would Kylie, because that's her new job.
Yes. Taking it on.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks to Matt, Kylie, and Jeff for joining me, and thanks to all of you for listening. Please remember to send us your questions to fhbpodcast@taunton.com. And please include a mailing address. Our program has been very successful, Kylie. I think I've sent out more than a dozen.
There's something about calling it a program that just tickles me.
Isn't it
pink.
great?
Yeah.
It's like it's so important. It's a
Right.
program. Can't wait to talk about the staff meeting. Well, the podcast sticker program is really taking off. Please like, comment, or review us however you're listening. It helps other folks find our podcast. Happy building. Keep craft alive.